I want to get through these fast as possible so we can get back and get some more gear in here.
Sig Hansen has struck gold by fishing where he shouldn't. The crew aboard the Wizard is eager to see what they've caught next.
And at the same time, when it's tied against the wind, the way the string is sitting, I got the line under the boat. I can hear the strain on the block now. We need to really pay attention, get the pots on safely.
Working with Captain Keith Colburn, they've brought in a huge haul. As they pull up the last trap, excitement fills the air. They're finishing days early. But what's inside that final trap? Join us as we find out what surprising catch that could change everything. The unexpected fortune of the high seas. Sig Hansen has been pulling in crabs steadily for the last 12 hours. There are so many crabs here, he says, excited about what they might find next. Working together with Keith and the Wizard ship has been a great move, making their catch even bigger. But just as he reaches for the next pot, something strange comes up from the deep. A sight so shocking, it will change how they see the ocean forever. What they find next will shock you. The Wizard ship is nearby, and their teamwork has led to some big wins. Captain Keith Colburn is having one of his best seasons ever. We're almost done here. Just one more trap to bring in, and then we head back, he tells his crew, clearly happy with how things are going.
I was going to go make a trip out west for deepwater brown crab, and I got a job on the other boat. I was going to cook on this boat, and I threw my bag over the rail. I jumped over the rail.
As they bring in the last trap, the crew celebrates their success. This trip is wrapping up much faster than last year's. What took over 9 days last time is finishing in under 6 this time. During the wrap-up, John, also known as the Roadrunner, hints that there's a little surprise waiting in the next trap, adding a bit of fun to their hard work. But the surprise isn't just another pile of crabs. Amidst the laughter, they find a saint, Christopher Coin, a little token of good luck and friendship from John. It's these little things that bring us closer together out here, one of the crew members notes, thankful for the mix of hard work and moments of connection. But this wasn't the end of their good fortune. As the night goes on, Captain Keith keeps up his streak of good catches, and the crew's spirits stay high. Everyone agrees that working with John is a pleasure. His leadership and sense of humor make even the tough days better. The season wraps up on a positive note, with the crew ready to head back, gear packed and in good spirits. In the span of a single day, perceptions and circumstances took a dramatic turn. Yesterday had been challenging, but the subsequent day unfolded with unexpected revelations. Keith, known for his usual reserve and distant demeanor towards others, offered a surprising olive branch. His words, unexpected yet sincere, suggested a fresh start.
One by one, when they kind of woke up, they kind of snuck underneath the table, because I said at the end, so they were sneaking under the table going to their bunks. And it was like 4 hours later, 5 hours later, I woke up.
Just because we didn't start well doesn't mean it has to stay that way. This gesture prompted a reevaluation of existing partnerships and hinted at the potential for a deeper, more reliable collaboration. Perhaps this newfound alliance could even echo the storied camaraderie of the legendary League of Justice. Meanwhile, out on the vast ocean, the thrill of the season's work was palpable. The 125-foot Northwestern became a hub of exhilarating activity as the crew pulled in an unprecedented haul of crabs. Amid the bustling effort, shouts of amazement filled the air, marking what could be the most successful season in recent memory. With each crab that landed in the storage, the hope and excitement only grew, painting a picture of a season where everything seemed to align perfectly. Captain Sig Hansen and his crew have been working without rest, racing against the clock to fill their tanks with red king crabs. If we keep this up and maintain a good pace, we'll have the boat filled in no time, Sig said confidently. They are pushing themselves hard to meet a big target. Down below, deck boss Edgar Hansen is feeling the strain. His back, already sore from the heavy workload, feels even worse each time he moves or sits to steer. Even though the pain is sharp, Edgar hasn't mentioned it to Sig, his older brother. Complaining isn't in their nature, but it's tough when every movement hurts. Just a few days ago, their quota was raised. Edgar was excited about the chance to prove himself in the family business. This was more than just a small opportunity. It could mean big money and a chance to show what he's made of. But things weren't going as smoothly for Edgar. Someone called out, "Where's Edgar Hansen?" They needed him on deck. Edgar started to move, but felt the pain in his back flare up again. The crew's worried looks tell of troubles brewing on and off the sea. The fraying bonds of a seafaring crew. On a boat far from shore, tension filled the air. One crew member, struggling with constant back pain, had become a concern. The pain wasn't new, but it had only been mentioned in the last days of their journey. Now every task seemed too difficult for him, and his body was failing just when he was needed most. His partner, responsible for the crew's well-being and the success of their mission, felt frustrated and betrayed. Learning about the crew members' conditions so late had serious consequences. Half of their potential earnings depended on the ship's operations, making this a terrible time for any setbacks. Trust between them was now shaky, as the crew members' ability to handle even simple tasks was in question. The health issue, kept secret until it was almost too late, put their current trip and the crew members' future in crab fishing at risk. Despite the frustration and high stakes, there was no desire to abandon him. The decision to stay together was a choice made out of loyalty and commitment, not just necessity. The partner, feeling the weight of the situation, thought about what to do next. It seemed like the crew member was more focused on his own comfort than their shared goals.
You don't fight with your mouth. You fight with your actions and your ability and your prowess and your ability to learn.
Pushing the limits of patience. In any other job, the consequences might have been swift and harsh, but out here on the sea, family ties and shared history meant more. They feared this could be the crew member's last season in the tough world of crab fishing. But the worst part was still ahead. The crew member had promised to manage the boat for the rest of the season, and the partner wasn't happy with where things were headed. They had dealt with back problems before, but this time felt different. Even Edgar, the crew member's brother, was unhappy with the situation. The partner asked the crew member how he was feeling, suggesting that they might need to send him to Anchorage for a medical checkup. They needed to understand what was really going on with his health instead of ignoring the problem. If it turned out to be worse than they thought, he might miss more seasons or even get insurance involved, which could make things much more complicated. For the first time, a crew member began to feel strange symptoms, numbness and sharp pains that felt like a heart attack. To make matters worse, the boat's main engine broke down. Even though the oil and gearbox were checked and seemed fine, they still needed a few days to get the engine running again. Meanwhile, the crew had to stay ready and focused. As the crew makes a tough choice, new challenges wait. A new captain. Edgar, the crew member with the health scare, was expected to recover soon. However, this left the team with a tough choice. Should they move ahead and risk being short-handed? Captain Sig Hansen stepped in and offered one of the crew the chance to take the lead, to act as captain. This was a tempting offer because being a leader was a big deal, but it was hard to ignore the fact that Barry still needed help, and the pain from an aching back made things even tougher. Despite all these issues, the team had to keep their attention on the tasks in front of them. Fishing had once been very rewarding back in 1992, but now it seemed like a long shot. The goal was clear, to keep the family business going and head out in search of a big catch. But no one wanted to start the season on the wrong foot. That year, Captain Sig Hansen was among the first to reach the chosen fishing grounds. Traditionally, these spots were further west, where large catches had been common. However, with fishing quotas now 3 times higher than before, no one was sure if these old spots would still produce after being left alone for over 20 years. The crew believed they were close to finding a good spot. They began dusting off old logbooks to pinpoint a location from the past. The task was simple in theory, but not easy. Find the book, find the place, a spot that wasn't on any modern map. After some searching, they rediscovered the coordinates, leading to an old ditch that seemed to hold promise. With the target location in sight, they geared up for what they hoped would be a successful trip. For 15 hours non-stop, the crew worked tirelessly, using all their gear. This marked the end of their hunt for king crab and the start of a new challenge.
No, you know what? I heard something, somebody talking on 18, and then I couldn't pick it up.
It felt like a fresh beginning, a new adventure in waters they knew well. The last time they fished these waters, the narrator was just 12 years old. These old spots, though often unpredictable, brought a sense of nostalgia and a small hope that luck would be on their side this season. As Captain Sig Hansen set the traps based on old records, the feeling was a mix of excitement and sentimentality. The success of the season heavily depended on what these traps would catch. Some of the crew were doubtful about using such outdated information, creating a tense atmosphere as they waited. Their future and their jobs depended on what the traps would yield. This was the critical moment, a test of whether they could trust old legends and prove their skills as fishermen once more. As the fishing trip began under a cloud of uncertainty, the crew aboard the 107-ton Saga D felt a tense atmosphere. However, that feeling soon turned to excitement when they saw the first signs of a good catch. One of the crew members spotted several large crabs, their size and clean shells suggesting a promising start. Excitement spread among the team as they pulled up more pots, each brimming with big crabs. Each haul seemed better than the last. The first pot had been a good sign, but the real test lay ahead, a trench known to be a favorite spot for crabs. The crew hoped the crabs would gather near the edges, meaning even bigger numbers in their nets soon. With the sea calm, unexpected events are about to test the crew. A crabbing chronicle. With each pot coming up full of healthy crabs, the crew's spirits soared. They began to count numbers that reminded them of the best seasons of the 90s. 82, 92, and even 93 crabs in quick succession. They were fishing over 240 miles northeast of Dutch Harbor, and everything felt like it was falling into place, working smoothly like a well-oiled machine. Captains Dan and Elliot, leading the expedition, were especially happy. Captain Dan had already brought in 57 crabs in the first haul, a strong start. Under Captain Elliot's careful watch, their ship had become the envy of the fleet, catching more crabs than any other at the moment. But even with 60,000 pounds of crabs in their tanks, they were far from done for the season. But the challenge wasn't just about finding the crabs. It was about staying with them. This was what separated a good captain from a great one. The crew was skilled at reading the crabs' movements, always adjusting their approach to stay ahead of the shifting schools. As they carefully moved their gear, predicting where the crabs would go next, they kept their focus. This was fueled by the calm that comes from knowing everything is in order back home. Even the most experienced captain needs to remember to stay on course. The high point of the trip came when they tallied a catch that set a new record for the year: 72 crabs in a single pot. It was days like this that reminded everyone why they love crab fishing. The joy of a good catch was something every crew member deeply felt. Yet the dangers of the job were always lurking. Just as they were getting into a rhythm, something went wrong. An 800-pound pot suddenly came loose from the crane and crashed onto the deck with a terrifying sound. The accident brought everyone to a halt as they rushed to secure the damaged crane. The winch, which was crucial for lifting the heavy pots, had broken loose, making their job much more difficult. The captain quickly put on his safety gear, ready to tackle the problem.
Down right now, send Wade up here to drive. Put that down, Wade, get up here now. Winch just ripped off the crane.
They had to pause all fishing, a harsh reminder of just how unpredictable their work could be. Every moment at sea came with risks. Machines could fail at any time, posing serious dangers. The crew knew they had to move fast to take apart the broken parts and find a temporary fix. Their immediate task was clear: grab a chain from inside the ship to attach a new winch system. Despite this setback, the crew stayed positive, determined to face whatever came next. They needed to wrap the chain around a specific spot so it would hang the right way. To do this, the captain had to get creative and climb up the boom. He secured it to attach a chain hoist, making it easier to handle the weight, disconnect the hose, and lower everything down safely. His first task was to anchor the winch on the deck, which wasn't easy since the ship was swaying a lot. Higher up on the boom, the movement felt even worse, with big waves making it quite dangerous. It's rare to see the captain up there. Usually the deckhands handle that kind of work, but this time he was there, and everyone couldn't help but be impressed. Elliot was told to step back to a safer spot. Just in time, he grabbed the hydraulic line, stopping the winch from crashing onto the deck, which could have been deadly. With the winch out of the way, Elliot quickly came up with an idea. They chose to use an old method from the 1970s involving a straight boom crane. They ran a line through the eye holes of the boom down to the bucket, which allowed them to lift and move the pots without needing the winch, keeping their fishing operation moving. With a storm approaching, the crew must fix their problems quickly. The struggle for red crab. They laughed about how they could either fix anything or break it just as quickly. They didn't have many options, but they were determined to keep going. They were grateful they had noticed the problem in time and that no one had gotten hurt. Captain Keith then maneuvered his ship to start pulling up the first crab pots of the season. They were targeting a kind of crab that could bring in a lot of money. With their usual income cut in half, they were under pressure to catch these crabs quickly. But this wasn't the worst part. While scanning the sea floor, they spotted a group of starfish on a rocky bottom, different from the muddy areas where sea life usually gathers. After 2 days of chasing crabs, Captain Wild Bill was eager to fill his tanks and finish his season. However, time was running out. A massive storm was approaching, a super typhoon forming south of Japan, predicted to bring dangerously low atmospheric pressure. In the sea logs, you can feel the tension building as the weather starts to change. The red crab season is almost over, and the captain is pushing to get the last of the crabs stored safely. They need to reach town before the storm hits, but with 71 crab pots still out in the water to the south, time is running out. Steering the boat is already hard in these rough seas, especially when loaded with heavy gear. The captain makes it clear that every crab pot needs to be secured tightly.
Ready to finish it up. We've got 23 pots left, and the typhoon's coming. Hopefully we're out here before the beginning of the apocalypse.
Miles Johnson, just 23, listens closely. It's his first big attempt at this crucial job, and the waves are wild. The message is simple. Safety comes first, and there's no room for mistakes or slowing down. Last season, Miles had a close call with a crab pot, a near miss that taught him a tough lesson. Now, facing these rough seas again, he can't help but feel the same fear creeping back in. The crew is racing to meet their king crab quota. If they catch too many, they have to release the extra crabs back into the ocean, all while keeping an eye on the dangerous waters around them. Captain Wild Bill knows the risks and has a plan to get out before the storm fully hits. But things are getting worse. Miles feels the pressure as he works on stacking gear on the slippery deck. He moves carefully, like someone learning to walk for the first time. The storm builds, pushing everyone to their limits, with winds hitting 50 miles an hour and waves reaching 25 feet high. Every move they make could mean the difference between life and death. But that's not the worst of it. As they secure the remaining crab pots, they make sure every knot and tie is checked multiple times. The experienced crew knows that one mistake could be disastrous, throwing the boat off balance. The captain keeps repeating the need to triple-check everything, not wanting to repeat past mistakes that nearly ended in tragedy. The storm is getting closer, and the urgency grows. They add extra chains to the last pots to keep them secure in the violent waves. For Miles, this is a harsh lesson. The sea doesn't forgive mistakes, and even a small error could cost more than just a telling off. It could cost lives. As the storm rages, the crew's teamwork is put to the test. They rely on each other, knowing that the strength of every crew member is vital to keep them all safe. Miles, still new but learning fast, feels the weight of his responsibilities. The storm looms ever closer, a constant reminder of how unpredictable and powerful the ocean can be. As the storm tests their limits, do you think experience outweighs teamwork in such life-threatening situations? Comment your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more.